Hi everyone. Today I'm on the Citrus Twist Kits blog and I'm sharing this week's 3 to Inspire prompts. And the challenges for this week's prompts are number 1, using triangles, number 2, an interactive element, of course, you all know how I love interactive elements, and 3, foam thickers. So for this spread, I wanted to use the September Bungalow Lane add-on kit from the Citrus Twist Kits shop. And I know it's October now, but I really wanted to try out this idea that I had in mind with one of the pattern papers from the kit. And this kit is still available on the Citrus Twist Kit store as of the filming of this video. So I'll leave a link down in the description box below if you'd like to snag one for yourself, if you'd like to try this layout. So I knew that I wanted to document some photos of a recent boat tour that we took to Spirit Island. And the pattern paper from Paige Evans' Bungalow Lane collection, this is pattern paper number 3. It has all of these small triangles on it, and it really reminded me of the shapes of these mountains in my photos, as well as the blues and the greens in my photos. So I'm just measuring the height and the width of some of the triangle shapes that I found in this pattern paper. So the smaller triangles are about 1 inch by 1 inch. And then if you combine 4 of them together, you get like a triangle that's 2 rows tall versus 3 triangles wide. And those are about 2 1/8 of an inch by 2 inches. And then if you combine even more of them, then you get a triangle that's 3 rows tall. And those ones are going to be 3 1/8 of an inch approximately by 3 inches tall. So this will come into play because I want to be cutting out some of these triangle shapes as well as making my photos into triangle shapes. And all of these triangles are just going to go across my page so that it looks like a geometric abstract mountainscape that's going across my 2 Life Crafted album pages. So the way that I'm going to be creating these triangle shaped photos here is by using Microsoft Word. So I have a blank document here, and I'm just going to hit the insert button on the top and then select the shapes and then insert a triangle shape. So here it's just a random size triangle, and then if I go to the tab that says shape format, or alternately you can right click on this too, and then it should give you an option to format the shape. You can input the height and the width of the triangle that you want. So I want my triangle to be 3 1/8 of an inch wide, which is 3.125 inches, and 3 inches tall, because that's going to be the size of the larger triangle that I'm going to be cutting out from the pattern paper. Now that I have my triangle in the right dimensions, I'm going to right click on it and click the fill button. Alternately, you can go to shape format and it should give you an option to fill the shape as well. And I'm going to fill it using a picture. Now, I've already selected 6 photos that I want to use on the spread that are going to be good for cropping into triangular shaped photos. So what that means is I want the subject of my photos to be approximately centered and towards the bottom half of the photo. So for example, I have a picture of me and my boyfriend. We're standing in the middle of the photo and our faces are kind of in the middle, towards the bottom half of the photo. And then same thing with the deer. I have a deer towards the center of the photo and towards the bottom half of the photo. And the reason why is because when you're cropping things into a triangle shape, it's going to cut off the top and the top, right, and left corners, so you don't want there to be any important stuff in those 2 corners. Another thing you'll notice is that all of these are square photos, so they are the same width wide as they are tall, and that's because the triangle that we're cropping it into is about as wide as it is tall. So being 3 1/8 of an inch wide by 3 inches tall, that's kind of like the same width and height. And the reason why that is because if you have a photo that's not the same dimensions as the shape that you're trying to crop it into. So, for example, if you have like a landscape photo that's wider than it is tall, once you crop it into the shape on Microsoft Word, it'll actually compress the image and distort it so that it's trying to fit the whole image into that shape. So it'll try to squish your photo so that it fits into the triangle shape. So for the purposes of this video, because the shape that I'm cropping it into is the same width as the height, that's why I'm using Scor photos. So I'm just going to select one of these photos. Let's go with the island one for starters, because I do want that to be one of the larger triangles. And you'll see that that has cropped the photo nicely into a triangle shape. Now, I'm just copying and pasting that triangle so that I can use that same shaped triangle with the correct dimensions over and over again. And I'm going to be repeating this for the rest of the images that I have in that folder there. So again, just right-clicking on that triangle, hitting the fill button, and then filling from a picture, and then you can choose from a picture from a file that you have on your computer. So I'm going to continue those same steps with a couple more photos. And when I get to this deer picture, I know that I want the deer picture to be smaller, specifically the same size as one of those smaller triangle pieces. So that's about 1 inch by 1 inch. So I'm just going to take the corner of this shape that I have and drag it inwards so that it makes the shape smaller. And while I'm doing that, I want to make sure that I'm pressing down the shift button while I'm dragging that corner inwards so that it keeps those dimensions of the shape intact, so that the proportions are the same with the width versus the height. And you'll notice that when I don't have that shift button pressed down, it can distort the proportions of that triangle and make the picture look a bit weird. So just adjusting those triangles to a bit of a smaller size. I ended up adjusting the picture of the deer and the Canada flag banner to about 1 inch tall. And then the photo of me and my boyfriend standing in the center of the photo, plus the two of us sitting in the red chairs, to about 2 inches tall. And then the other two photos I'm going to keep at 3 inches tall. Just to have some variety in the sizes of triangles. And if you click on the shape format button on the top of the bar, you'll notice that you can watch and see how tall and wide your photos are. So you can always keep adjusting those until they're the right size that you need. And I'm going to be printing all of these triangle-shaped photos onto an 8.5 inch by 11 inch piece of photo paper. So I'm going to do my best to concentrate all of the triangles up towards the top half of the page. And then I'm going to insert off screen some other photos. I'm going to have some landscape photos, 3 of them specifically. These are about 3.5 inches wide, and you'll see them when I'm working on the next step of my interactive page. So here are all of the triangle photos that I've printed out, and you'll notice that strip of the 3 photos on the side as well. And I also have printed out, this was also done using Microsoft Word, some journaling in a triangle shape, and this is going to be approximately the same size as that larger triangle that we're going to be using, so the one that's 3 inches tall. Next up, I'm just going to be cutting out some triangle shapes from this pattern paper, and I know that the largest triangle that I'm going to be using on this page is going to be 3 triangles tall on this pattern paper. So I'm just trimming off that leftover bit of triangle on the right side of this pattern paper, and then I'm going to trim up 3 rows of triangles, and then from there I can cut out some triangle shapes using the pattern paper as a guide. So I ended up cutting out a whole bunch of triangles. I have at least 2 of those larger shaped ones, at least 3 of the ones that are 2 triangles tall, and then I have a few that are just the 1 triangle by itself. And I did cut out some of the ones that were a bit corally in color, but I'm only going to be using the ones that are blue and green for the purposes of the spread, just because I have a lot of blue and green going on in my photos. You'll notice that I switched to using my scissors for the smaller triangle pieces. I just found for the smaller triangles it was easier to use the scissors than to try to fiddle with getting them placed exactly right in my paper trimmer there. Next up, I'm using this navy blue pattern paper with the stripes on it. This is pattern paper number 17 from the Bungalow Lane collection. And I'm going to be using this as the base of my page. So just trimming it down to 5 inches wide by 8 3/8 of an inch tall, and then punching some holes to go into the Life Crafted album. And I'm going to be making an interactive pull-out element using that strip of 3 photos that I have there. And because the photo paper that I used isn't like the best quality, it's a bit flimsy, so I'm going to be backing this photo strip on this transparency piece that came in the add-on kit. This is also from the Bungalow Lane collection, and this transparency is just going to give that piece a bit extra stability so that when I'm pulling it in and out of the pocket, it won't get damaged at all. So these photos are approximately 3 3/4 of an inch wide, and then with the white border around them, that's about 4 inches wide. And then so I want my transparency to be about 4 1/4 inches wide so that I can see a bit of that pattern peeking out from behind the photos. And this piece is going to be about the same height as a Life Crafted album page protector, so about 8 1/4 inches. And that's just going to be able to fit behind my pocket that I'm going to be creating here. I'm going to be using some white cardstock as the base of my pages, and this is going to just go on top of that blue striped pattern paper that I have. And because the left side of the page doesn't need a pocket, that page is going to measure 4 5/8 of an inch wide by 8 3/8 of an inch tall. Because I'm going to be making a pocket out of that right side of the page, I'm going to be making this 1/2 inch wider than the piece that I cut for the left side of the page. So this is going to be 5 1/8 of an inch wide by 8 3/8 of an inch tall, and then I'm going to score at the 5 1/8 of an inch side at 1/2 an inch. So you'll see that once I fold that score line over, that's going to create a 1/2 an inch hinge that I can then attach to the page to create a pocket. And the left side of that pocket is just going to be closed because they're going to be in binder rings, so nothing's going to be able to fall out of that side of that page. So just punching some holes into both of these pieces of white cardstock. And once that's done, I'm just going to put that piece of white cardstock in a Life Crafted album, just to make sure that even with the binder rings there, I am still able to slide that transparency sheet in and out of that pocket that will be created once I adhere that flap down onto my base page. Before I work on completing my pocket, I'm just going to finish up my photo mat that I have there. So first off, I'm creating an oversized tab that's going to allow me to slide this transparency photo mat out from inside the pocket. So because this whole transparency piece is going to be hidden in the pocket, I want there to be something outside of this pocket that I can pull out, so that it's easier than trying to fit my fingers in between the pocket to try to pull out this photo mat. So to do that, I have this journaling that I've done on a triangular piece of paper, and I'm going to be matting that on this other piece of pattern paper that came in the add-on kit. So this is the Bungalow Lane collection, and this is pattern paper number 11, and I'm using the darker side to mat my journaling triangle piece. And before I adhered that triangle journaling card down to the pattern paper, I've just adhered a thin magnet between those two pieces as well. And I'm using Scor tape so that I know this isn't going to peel off anytime soon, just because this one piece will be handled to pull the photo mat in and out of this page. And this magnet will help hold the oversized tab down onto the base of the page so that it's not really flapping around when I'm flipping the pages in my Life Crafted album. And I'm going to be attaching that other magnet to the base page later on. So you'll notice as well that when I'm adhering this triangle journaling card onto the pattern paper, I'm making sure to leave at least half an inch towards the bottom of that pattern paper. And once I trim this out so that I have a bit of a border around my journaling triangle, I'll be taking my scoreboard and scoring at that half an inch mark. And then I'm going to be using this as a hinge to glue just with some Scor tape onto the back of the transparency so that this is attached to my transparency photo mat. So parts of this is off camera, unfortunately. It just like cut off the edge of what I'm doing here, but you can see that once I'm done, I have that triangle piece centered on the bottom of that transparency, and then it folds down, and then I have my photo attached to the transparency photo mat. Now that that's complete, I'm just going to attach my pocket to the base page. So I'm attaching some 1/8 inch Scor tape just along the edge close to where those binder rings are, and making sure not to overlap any of those binder rings. And then on the hinge part, I'm going to use some 3/8 inch Scor tape so that this will stick down and form a pocket for our photo mat. And here's where I'm attaching that other magnet. So if you remember, there is a magnet that's hidden under this yellow piece of pattern paper, just between the journaling card and the pattern paper on the triangle. So I'm just using another magnet, and I'm going to place it just above where the other magnet is hidden. And because they're magnets, they just attract to each other. And so I know that both of those magnets are in the same place. And I just put a bit of tape onto the exposed magnet so that when I close this flap down, it's going to adhere onto my white cardstock. Here I'm just adding a bit more Scor tape to that magnet just to hold it into place on the white cardstock. And I am going to be covering up this magnet with a triangle pattern paper that I had cut out. And this triangle piece is going to be hidden by my journaling card triangle piece when the photo mat is inside the pocket. So in order to make sure that I have it in the right place, I'm just centering it on the pattern paper, just on the yellow side there. And so when I fold this photo mat base page down onto that triangle, it will adhere onto the front of the magnet, and that will be in the right place. So now that the base of my page and the interactive elements are all complete, the rest of this spread is going to come together quite easily and quite smoothly. So I just have all of my triangle elements here that I'm arranging onto the two sides of this Life Crafted album spread, making sure to overlap some of the photos and some of the triangles a bit to give it a bit more of an organic feel. And I did have it to approximately where I wanted all of the triangle pieces to be here. But then I decided that I wanted to have my triangle pattern papers spaced out like how they would appear on a piece of pattern paper. So I wanted the unit of measurement to be like one triangle width. So everything had to be one triangle width apart from each other. And that took me a bit longer to organize, and in the end I probably didn't have to do that. It's just my mind is a bit OCD, and I just wanted everything to line up and make sense on my page. So you'll see that I'm using those smaller triangle pieces just to serve as kind of like units of measurement, where I kind of like measured this one would be like one triangle width away, or one triangle width above the other triangle, etc. And that's how I decided where to place all of my triangles. You'll notice as well that I do have a couple of elements overhanging from one side of the Life Crafted album page to the other. So, for example, that top pattern paper triangle that I had and the large triangle photo of Spirit Island that I have both intersect across those the seam across the two pages. And I just made sure that there wouldn't be any holes punched in the main part of my photo. So now that I have the bigger parts of the pattern paper triangles laid out on my page, I'm just adhering down some of my photos as well. And for the photos, I didn't care as much that they were geometrically in line with the patterned papers that I had on the page. Because I did want to create a bit of a staggered effect between the photos and the patterned papers, and I did want some of the photos to overlap with one another as well to create a bit more of an organic flow across the page. Just trying to decide here if I wanted to add any more of those tiny triangle shapes onto my page, and I did have to take my scissors and cut down the middle to make sure that these are separated into the two pages for my Life Crafted album. And then I really liked this alphabet sticker that came in the kit. This is actually a Citrus Twist Kits exclusive that is only available from the Citrus Twist Kits shop. And the yellow on this really matches the underneath of the pattern paper that I used to mat my triangle journaling card. So I really liked that I was able to pull in a bit more yellow there. So I just spelled the word Spirit Island just below my large photo. And I'm also going to add some foam thickers. This did also come in the Bungalow Lane kit, and these are from the Bungalow Lane collection from Paige Evans. And that just adds a bit more dimension to an otherwise rather flat page. Just taking my hole puncher again and repunching some of those holes that I had covered up with my photo and my pattern papers, and that finishes up my layout. I really love how this page turned out, especially how I was able to use these triangular pattern papers in kind of like a different way, and also that hidden photo mat as well. If you'd like to give this challenge a shot, feel free to tag me on Instagram or on the Citrus Twist Kits Facebook fan page so that I can check those out. And make sure to check the Citrus Twist Kits blog for some still photos as well as a link to all the supplies that I used. And be sure to check out the Citrus Twist Kits shop for all the new goodies released this month as well. Don't forget to hit the like button if you liked this video and subscribe for more process videos. Thanks so much for watching.